It is April 30th, 2019. We're in Henderson, Nevada with President Marlan J. Walker and his beautiful wife Colleen looking over his shoulder.
Hopefully.
But we were just reminiscing a little bit, and I've asked the president to go back down memory lane and tell us about receiving the call to be the mission president of the Mexico North Mission.
All right. I was serving at that time in a call that I loved dearly as a counselor to a stake president. I had we had such a close relationship in the stake presidency that I just thought that this was the call. If I have never had another, and it was the one that I would end my life on, I couldn't have a better one. And one afternoon I came in and to home, and my son Dean said, there's someone from Salt Lake trying to get a hold of you. He says, I couldn't get the name. I think it was a President Taylor. And I didn't know any President Taylor, but we've been having some problems between some members in our stake versus in Salt Lake. And I thought maybe it was that stake president. So I was on my way over to the stake office, driving over, and all of a sudden, a voice came in my mind. It was, as far as I'm concerned, it was out loud. I heard this voice that said, that wasn't President Taylor that phoned you, that was President Tanner. I practically wrecked the car. I mean, I said, no, because I know that President Tanner wouldn't be phoning me to check on the weather. So I suffered. This was the weekend. That was a Friday afternoon when he'd phoned. So I suffered the whole weekend. Terrible. I didn't know what it would be, but I knew if it was a member of the first presidency and I thought of different calls, and I thought probably I had no idea that I'd even be worthy of being a mission president, but I just didn't know what else it'd be. So anyway, on Monday, I got the call, and had a nice visit with him. He asked me pertinent questions about my family and all the other things, and very kind. Finally, he let me know, what it was all about, that I was being called as a mission president. And for a moment, my heart sank, because that was the time that I knew that I was halfway through a dissertation, and there's no way in the world that I could think that I could ever finish it in time for that. And so, but that call, talked to Colleen, we both had a couple of good cries. And then some of the things that I remember the most, how long we got on this?
As long as you need. At least 3 years.
One of the things that I'll never ever forget, was that there came a time when we had to tell our children. And I still didn't know where I was going to be called, because that was a different situation. So anyway, I might as well get that over with to begin with. Our oldest son was in Peru serving. And I told President Tanner, and I know he would have conveyed it on, but somehow when the call came to me to the I think it was the Andes mission at the time, soon to be one of the Peru missions, I was shocked because Dean was there, but finally, about just a few days after we found that where we're going to be called, President Hinckley phoned me. He was Elder Hinckley phoned me. He was the chairman of the missionary committee, Quorum of 12. And he said, President, we can't call you to serve down there. Your son's down there. That wouldn't be fair to him. Well, that really upset me. I'd already told the kids. And he could tell by the tone of my voice that I was upset. And he said, no, we'll have to do one thing. We'll have to go. He said, what do you want us to do? He said, we can send your son over the the mountain to Argentina or somewhere to finish his mission and take care of it. And I says, no. I said, I said it probably more pointedly than I'd ever dare do if I'd have thought about it to a member of the 12. I says, I'm not making that decision. You take it back to the first president and let them make it. So he said, all right. He said, I'll do that. But he said, in the meantime, this weekend, he says, you go to the piano, and I want you to play and sing all the verses of I'll Go Where You Want Me to Go, Dear Lord.
This is President Elder Hinckley.
Yeah. So Monday, he got back to me, and he said, how was your weekend? I said, well, I didn't sleep a wink, if that's what you want to know. He says, well, we decided to keep your son where he is and change your mission. It says, he said, we're calling you to serve as a president of the Mexico North Mission. I almost jumped off the floor saying hallelujah because, remember, I got my undergraduate degree at the University of Mexico City. I served as one of the branch presidents down there when there were only 3 branches. And even though that wasn't part of our mission, at least it was, and when I was in Mexico, I got to know Monterrey a little bit when we were living there. So anyway, that gave us the idea of what the call was going to be. But then when we finally told the kids, told them that we were going to be called, we're going to have to leave the only home they'd ever known in their entire lives. Never known another home. To go down to a foreign language that they didn't know. And when I read the letter, then by that time we had a letter. And when I read the letter in the First Presidency, they all began to cry. And then we began to weep. And it was a session that was, I'll never forget it. I'll never forget that experience. And the thing that touched my heart was Randy, Marley was in the mission field. Randy had graduated with really fine honors, with the scholarship and everything at BYU. And he thought he misunderstood, and he said, well, Dad, he said, I think this is a great honor for you. And he said, and I am telling you right now, I'm willing to give up my scholarship and go into school. We'll go down together. And I said, no, son. I said, we're not going to do that. I said, you keep your scholarship. You can come down all your vacations, and we'll get you down and back. And anyway, that began us, and we finally, I worked with my committee with Dr. Clark, J. Reuben III, and worked on my committee to where they worked with me, gave me a lot of direction on my dissertation, and I defended it, and thankfully, successfully. And 2 days later, we all got on the plane, and we left Randy. He could get out. He didn't have the things you have now. He went right out to where the plane was, tears rolling down his cheeks, and wished we'd taken him with us and forgotten about the school. And we flew, of course, to the mission. The kids didn't know any Spanish. They didn't dare get out of the home even. They couldn't talk to anyone. They cried. Brian, our young boy, at 5, he cried every night, just, I want to go back home. And we had to get all that taken care of. He finally became the linguist in the whole family, absolutely, perfectly bilingual by the time he'd been there 6 months. And loved it, of course, and kept that language ability. But then the next really, really tough day was when we had to take him over to school. Take him over to school, and this was a very tough time. But anyway, from there, things we found out that this is where the Lord wanted us to be. And the missionaries that we got, really speaking, I'd go down, I'm jumping ahead, but I'd go down to our meetings, our special meetings that we'd have with the members of the 12, And we went down to different places, like clear down to Yucatan one time, and sometimes Mexico City. But I'd listened to the other mission presidents tell me of all the challenges they had. And I'd come home and hug our missionaries. We had the finest missionaries, and that's just not talking like their mission father. We had the finest missionaries in the whole church. No, absolutely bar none. The problems that I had were so minuscule to be not even to hardly put in my journal, and my journals every year I had a big one. So this became I'm actually jumping a little ahead, but that became the great defining experience of our entire life. Our kids measure their lives practically from the pre-mission and the post-mission of their lives. It defined their lives, as it did for any missionary. It defined their lives. The missionaries treated them like younger brothers and sisters, and it was even now as we of course, Colin's on the other side now, but as I talk to the kids and we reminisce, it's one of those precious, wonderful experiences. Our two girls, they were treated like princesses. And Laura was old enough as in high school, sophomore in high school, that she was a beautiful girl, and so the missionaries they'd hardly speak to her. They'd never make eye contact. And she came to me weeping one time and said, they won't talk to me. And her little sister, Christine, of course, they just treated her like a little sister. So I had to get all the missionaries together and tell them, quit doing that. She's your sister in the field, and you can tease her. I shouldn't have said that because they went overboard. They put a cockroach in an envelope, a live one, and sent it to her one time. Then I decided, hey, you're going too far now. But they cherish their mission. They cherish the missionaries. They love the missionaries. And it blessed our lives. Of all the calls I've had, and I've had a lot of calls, I was temple president, and 6 years before that, a counselor. Had that experience, had another call down south again where I was executive secretary of the area press, and other different calls that Colleen and I had. But that call to the Mexico North Mission is that defining moment to us. If we had to talk about a time that we were the happiest of our entire lives, that would have to compete with the experience of taking a newly born baby of ours and hold him or her into our arms. I don't know what else I can tell you.
Well, thank you for sharing that. The takeaway for me, and I think it's a great lesson for everybody, was when you get called to a position by a Canadian, only good things can happen. Don't you think? Well, thank you for sharing that. We should remind everybody that when you were called to be a mission brother, you were 42 years old.
That's right.
And here today you said 112 years old.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that.
All right,
but
President.
90, and I've got 3 more good years in me.
Well, we hope more than that. God bless you.
Well, thank you.